and welcome to this episode, which is all about the thoughts that people start to have as early warning signs of burnout. Now, it's a really big subject because obviously it's complicated, human beings are involved, and when thoughts and feelings are involved, it's even more complicated. So I've split this episode into 3 parts just so that you can have me explain a little bit more in detail each of these thought processes, which really I've gathered over the last 20 odd years of practice, really. So one of the first most prominent thoughts that people who are burning out tend to have is that they will say to themselves, I don't feel like myself anymore. And that means that when they look into themselves and they dig deep to continue to work or to relate to people or to relax, to recognise something in themselves to almost help salvage how they feel, they don't feel ordinary to themselves. They feel out of character, and really I think that thought process is aligned to the feeling of being under-resourced to the point that you can't feel like yourself. So it's a very, very significant early warning sign. And sometimes once you feel it, it's difficult to shake it off, because if the person can't adjust to their circumstances and can't adjust to feeling under-resourced, overwhelmed, then that feeling of who am I don't recognise myself tends to deepen and just become more pronounced. So that's the first early warning sign that I would see with just about anybody. So the second one is where somebody will describe that they can't take one more thing. They can't take one more demand. And that is a sign of overwhelm, overload, overwork, too many stresses in life, and it's all built up. So what happens is everybody has a limit, and let's say your bandwidth is this, and the stresses of day-to-day life, and then something else happens, just keeps forcing you to the edge. So the thought of not being able to take one more thing, not being able to take another demand, is true. In a sense, your circuitry, your nervous system can't take anything else. There's no space to deal with it. So the person can start feeling quite anxious, like literally, if my boss asks me one more thing, or if my child gets sick, or if there's a bill to be paid, it's that there's no space to deal with everyday stresses. And then again, these symptoms and thought processes can interrelate, because that person's getting a sense actually that I'm in overwhelm, I can't dig deep and find some more space, and often they don't know what to do to save themselves and to keep themselves well. So because of overwhelm, and that's what people who are burning out have, it's a neurological condition. It's not about who they are as a person. It's not because they're weak. It's usually the exact opposite. Another thought process that can start coming in, and all thoughts just start with a little inkling of something, like a little a hint of something, right? Almost from the sidelines. Somebody who's verging on burning out can think, what if I didn't go into work today? What if I just carried on walking and just didn't take that turn into the office? What if I stayed on the train and just went to the end of the line? What if I just kept driving? Because that person is at their bandwidth already, this is a natural reaction to overwhelm. We're at the bandwidth, and if I go to the office, if I put some time into my business, I'm going to break down because I have nothing left. So again, it interrelates with the other early warning signs. the person knows they're getting full, if they're not full already, and so the brain is trying to find a way of saving that person. What if I just don't go in? Because we are so used to digging deep and carrying on, that person can feel there's only one way, and that is to avoid where the demands will be. And so yeah, I'll stay on the train, I'll keep walking, I'll keep driving, or I just won't get out of bed. And that's the brain's desperate attempt to look after you, in a sense, even though it doesn't feel like that at the time. So the last early warning symptom that I'm going to touch on today is where the person is feeling unable to describe this overwhelm. Because they can feel embarrassed by it, they can feel some shame about being overwhelmed, they often will not share how they feel with other people. And as I've said many times, it's not that the person's weak, it's actually because the symptoms and the stress has weakened them. So it's a very different state from I'm a weak person to I am weakened. So somebody that's on the verge of burning out is weakened because they've gone on and on for months and years, often at such a level that they can't meet that anymore. They can't sustain it, and rightly so, because they're at their bandwidth, they're at their limit, and they deserve more than just scraping through. And we can feel quite embarrassed when we look at other people. They look like they're managing, right? How comes that person can stay till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock? And how comes that person's the one that's always on social media sharing these amazing things they're doing around the world, and I'm really, really struggling to get through the day? So there's a kind of setup in this day and age where we compare and despair. We'll look and think that we know what other people are going through. But really what matters if you're on the verge of burning out is you. That you're at your bandwidth and you deserve the right to adjust your day, to adjust your hour, your next 10 minutes, so that you save yourself from burnout trauma, which can take a very long time to recover from, very long time indeed, around 6 months to 2 years of proper working through treatment to get fully better. So if you recognise any of these symptoms or you have others to share, I would love to hear from you. I'm going to do part 2 straight away. I'm doing it in chunks because you're already overwhelmed, and doing too much at once is not what we're looking for. So stay in touch, subscribe to wherever you're listening, and I will meet you in part 2.